And it happened in the days when the judges judged that there was a famine in the land, and a man went from Bethlehem in Yehudah to sojourn in the fields of Moab, he, his wife, and his 2 sons. The man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi. And his 2 sons were named Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem in Yehudah. They came to the field of Moab, and they remained. Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth, and they lived there about 10 years. The 2 of them, Mahlon and Chilion, also died, and the woman was bereft of her 2 children and of her husband. She then arose along with her daughters-in-law to return from the fields of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that Hashem had remembered his people by giving them food. She left the place where she had been, accompanied by her 2 daughters-in-law, and they set out on the road to return to the land of Yehudah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return, each of you, to her mother's house. May Hashem deal kindly with you, as you have dealt kindly with the dead and with me. May Hashem grant that you may find security, each in the home of her husband." She kissed them, and they raised their voice and wept. And they said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why should you come with me? Have I more sons in my womb who could become husbands to you? Turn back, my daughters. Go along, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I were to say, 'There is hope for me,' and even if I were to have a husband tonight, and even bear sons, would you wait for them until they were grown up? Would you tie yourselves down for them and not marry anyone else? No, my daughters, I am very embittered on account of you, for the hand of Hashem has gone forth against me." They raised up their voice and wept again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. So she said, "Look, your sister-in-law has returned to her people and to her God. Go, follow your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you, to turn back and not follow you. For wherever you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people are my people, and your God is my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Thus may Hashem do to me, and more, if anything but death separates me from you." When she saw she was determined to go with her, she stopped arguing with her, and the 2 of them went on until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they arrived in Bethlehem, the entire city was tumultuous over them. And the women said, "Could this be Naomi?" "Do not call me Naomi, pleasant one," she replied. "Call me Mara, embittered one, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I was full when I went away, but Hashem has brought me back empty. How can you call me Naomi? Hashem has testified against me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." And so it was that Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the fields of Moab. They came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Chapter 2. Naomi had a relative through her husband, a man of substance from the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go out to the field and glean among the ears of grain behind someone in whose eyes I shall find favor." "Go, my daughter," she said to her. So she went. She came and gleaned in the field behind the harvesters, and her fate made her happen upon a parcel of land belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Behold, Boaz arrived from Bethlehem. He greeted the harvesters. "Hashem be with you." And they answered him, "May Hashem bless you." Boaz then said to his servant, who was overseeing the harvesters, "To whom does that young woman belong?" "She is a Moabite girl," the servant who was overseeing the harvesters replied. "The one that returned with Naomi from the fields of Moab." And she had said, "Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters." So she came and has been on her feet since the morning until now, except for her resting a little in the hut. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Hear me well, my daughter. Do not go to glean in another field, and don't leave here, but stay close to my maidens. Keep your eyes on the field which they are harvesting, and follow them. I have ordered the young men not to molest you. Should you get thirsty, go to the jugs and drink from what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing down to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take special note of me, though I am a foreigner?" Boaz replied and said to her, "I have been fully informed of all that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and the land of your birth, and went into a people you had never known before. May Hashem reward your actions, and may your payment be full from Hashem, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge." Then she said, "May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my lord, because you have comforted me, and because you have spoken to the heart of your maidservant, though I am not even as worthy as one of your maidservants." At mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come over here and partake of the bread, and dip your morsel in the vinegar." So she sat beside the harvesters. He handed her parched grain, and she ate and was satisfied and had some left over. Then she got up to glean. And Boaz ordered his young men, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves. Do not embarrass her, and even deliberately pull out some for her from the heaps, and leave them for her to glean. Don't rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening, and she beat out what she had gleaned. It came to about an ephah of barley. She carried it and came to the city. Her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she took out and gave her what she had left over after eating her fill. "Where did you glean today?" her mother-in-law asked her. "Where did you work? May the one that took such generous notice of you be blessed." So she told her mother-in-law whom she had worked by, and said, "The name of the man by whom I worked today is Boaz." Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be he of Hashem, for not failing in his kindness to the living or to the dead. The man is closely related to us." Naomi then said to her, "He is one of our redeeming kinsmen." And Ruth the Moabite said, "What's more, he even said to me, 'Stay close to my workers until they have finished all my harvest.'" Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, Ruth, "It is fine, my daughter, that you go out with his young woman, so that you will not be annoyed in another field." So she stayed close to Boaz's young woman. So she stayed close to Boaz's young woman to glean until the end of the barley harvest and of the wheat harvest. Then she stayed at home with her mother-in-law. Chapter 3. Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, I must seek security for you, that it may go well with you. Now Boaz, our relative, with whose maidens you have been, will be winnowing barley tonight on the threshing floor. Therefore, bathe and anoint yourself, don your finery, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. And when he lies down, note the place where he lies, and go over, uncover his feet, and lie down. He will tell you what you are to do." She replied, "All that you say to me I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything as her mother-in-law instructed her. Boaz ate and drank, and his heart was merry. He went to lie down at the end of the grain pile, and she came stealthily, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night the man was startled, and turned about. There was a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. And she answered, "I am your handmaid Ruth. Spread your robe over your handmaid, for you are a redeemer." And he said, "Be blessed of Hashem, my daughter. You have made your latest act of kindness greater than the first, and that you have not gone after the younger men, be they poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. Whatever you say, I will do for you. For all the men in the gate of my people know that you are a worthy woman. Now, while it is true that I am a redeemer, there is also another redeemer closer than I. Stay the night. Then in the morning, if he will redeem you, fine, let him redeem. But if he does not want to redeem you, then I will redeem you. Chai Hashem, lie down until the morning." So she lay at his feet until the morning, and she arose before one man could recognize another. For he said, "Let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." And he said, "Hold out the shawl you are wearing and grasp it." She held it, and he measured out 6 measures of barley and set it on her. Then he went into the city. She came to her mother-in-law, who said, "How do things stand with you, my daughter?" So she told her all that the man had done for her. And she said, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, for he said to me, 'Do not go empty-handed to your mother-in-law.'" Then she said, "Sit patiently, my daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out, for the man will not rest unless he settles the matter today." Chapter 4. Boaz, meanwhile, had gone up to the gate and sat down there. Just then the Redeemer of whom Boaz had spoken passed by. He said, "Come over, sit down here, Ploni Almoni." And he came over and sat down. He then took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit here." And they sat down. Then he said to the Redeemer, "The parcel of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech is being offered for sale by Naomi, who has returned from the fields of Moab. I resolved that I should inform you to this effect. Buy it in the presence of those sitting here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you are willing to redeem, redeem. But if it will not be redeemed, tell me, that I may know. For there is no one else to redeem it but you, and I after you." And he said, "I am willing to redeem." Then Boaz said, "The day you buy the field from Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth the Moabite, wife of the deceased, to perpetuate the name of the deceased on his inheritance." The Redeemer said, "Then I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I imperil my own inheritance. Take over my redemption responsibility on yourself, for I am unable to redeem." Formerly, this was done in Israel in cases of redemption and exchange transactions. To validate all matters, one would draw off his shoe and give it to the other. This was the process of ratification in Israel. So when the Redeemer said to Boaz, "Buy it for yourself," he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said to the elders and to all the people, "You are witness this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chlion's and Mahlon's from Naomi. And what is more, I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Machlon, as my wife, to perpetuate the name of the deceased on his inheritance, that the name of the deceased not be cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. You are witnesses today." Then all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, "We are witnesses. May Hashem make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and like Leah, both of whom built up the house of Israel. May you prosper in Ephrath and be famous in Bethlehem. And may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Yehudah, through the offspring which Hashem will give you by this young woman." And so Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he came to her. Hashem let her conceive, and she bore a son. And the woman said to Naomi, "Blessed be Hashem, who has not left you without a redeemer today. May his name be famous in Israel. He will become your life restorer and sustain your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you, has borne him, and she is better to you than 7 sons." Naomi took the child and held it in her bosom, and she became his nurse. The neighborhood woman gave him a name, saying, "A son is born to Naomi." They named him Obed. He was the father of Yeshaiah, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Perez. Perez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Amminadab, and Amminadab begot Nachshon, and Nachshon begot Salma, and Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Yeshaiah, and Yeshaiah begot David.